72 ounces of silver to buy 1 ounce of gold. That number should terrify every person who understands what it means. For 3,000 years, you needed approximately 15 ounces of silver to equal 1 ounce of gold. 15 to 1. That was natural equilibrium carved into Earth's crust by geological forces. Today, 72 to 1. I've been studying this pattern for years, and what I'm seeing keeps me awake at night. This isn't about precious metals trading. This is about fundamental disruption in the monetary system, so profound that when it corrects, and it will, the wealth transfer will be unlike anything witnessed in modern history. December 31st, 2025. Silver closed at 72.58. Gold closed at 4,843. The ratio that governed empires and remained stable for millennia is stretched to levels that defy economic logic and geological reality. But here's what nobody talks about. This 72 to 1 ratio isn't accident or market forces. This is the result of systematic suppression that has been running for decades. And the data suggests that mechanism is failing in real time. In 2020, the gold-silver ratio reached 125.1, highest in recorded history. Mainstream media wants you to believe this is normal. Silver is more volatile, they say. Industrial demand creates different dynamics. These are the same experts who missed 2008 housing crisis, 2020 inflation surge, and every major dislocation of the past 20 years. Here's what they don't understand. The gold-silver ratio isn't just a trading metric. It's measurement of monetary equilibrium itself. When this ratio deviates significantly from historical norm, it signals massive systemic stress. When it corrects, when it snaps back toward 15 to 1, the force reshapes entire economic landscapes. I've analyzed geological surveys, mining data, and historical records. Earth produces roughly 8 ounces of silver for every ounce of gold. Always has. Romans knew this. Medieval merchants knew this. The architects of the Coinage Act of 1792 knew this. They set the official U.S. ratio at 15:1 because that reflected natural abundance. But something changed in 1971. When Nixon severed the dollar's link to gold, the system shifted from physical constraints to pure fiat manipulation. Paper promises replaced metal reality. In that transformation, silver got lost. Gold retained monetary status among central banks. Silver became classified as industrial commodity. This reclassification was deliberate. By removing silver's monetary role, the system could manipulate its price independently, create unlimited paper silver contracts, suppress prices through futures markets. For 50 years, this worked. Silver was kept artificially cheap, while gold reflected monetary debasement. Now that control is breaking down. December 2025, data tells a story that should alarm anyone paying attention. COMEX silver vaults lost 60% of registered inventory in 4 trading days. China implemented export restrictions affecting 70% of global supply. Industrial demand explodes while mine production remains flat. Meanwhile, gold trades at monetary crisis levels above $4,000. Central banks bought over 1,000 tons in 2025. But silver is pulled in 2 directions simultaneously: massive industrial consumption and awakening monetary demand. This creates mathematical impossibility that current ratio cannot sustain. When industrial users compete with monetary investors for finite physical supply, prices don't rise gradually, they explode. And when silver explodes while gold remains elevated, the ratio doesn't adjust slowly, it collapses violently. Warning signs are everywhere. Silver lease rates hit 200% annualized during acute shortage, physical premiums widening globally, backwardation becoming persistent rather than temporary. These aren't normal market conditions, these are crisis indicators. The forces driving this ratio distortion are accelerating. Solar panel demand alone could consume 14,000 tons annually by 2030. Electric vehicle production doubling every 3 years. Data centers proliferating exponentially. Each requires silver for essential functions. None can substitute alternatives at scale. Silver mine production flat since 2016. New mines take 8 to 12 years to develop. Recycling can't keep pace. And now China weaponized supply with export restrictions beginning January 1st, 2026. The mathematics are inescapable. If silver corrects from 72.1 to historical 15.1, while gold remains current levels, silver doesn't just double. Silver goes to $289 per ounce. That's not speculation, that's arithmetic. But what if gold also rises as monetary debasement accelerates? What if the dollar continues weakening? Then silver's catch-up move becomes even more extreme. I'm not making predictions, I'm reading patterns. The pattern is clear. The gold-silver ratio is stretched to levels that violate both geological reality and monetary history. When stretched systems snap back, they overshoot in the opposite direction. Always. The last time silver corrected dramatically was 1979 to 1980. Silver went from $6 to $50 in 18 months. That correction started from a smaller distortion than exists today. What we're witnessing now is the largest monetary distortion in precious metals history. Distortions this extreme don't resolve gradually. They resolve catastrophically, all at once, in cascade of position covering that overwhelms every paper market mechanism. The question isn't whether this ratio will correct. The question is when. Based on what I'm seeing in the data, that when might be sooner than anyone expects. Rome, 312 AD. Emperor Constantine holds a silver denarius and gold solidus. The exchange rate, 15 silver coins for 1 gold coin. Not bureaucratic decree, but natural abundance from Hispania and Dacia mines. Philadelphia, 1792. Alexander Hamilton presents the Coinage Act to Congress. He establishes 15 ounces of silver equal 1 ounce of gold. Because geological surveys confirmed the same natural ratio Romans knew 17 centuries earlier. This isn't coincidence. This is the mathematical signature of planetary formation itself. But here's what disturbs me about the historical data. Every time the gold-silver ratio deviated significantly from natural equilibrium, it preceded massive economic disruption, not small corrections, civilizational changes. Ancient Greece, when Laurium silver mines depleted in the 4th century BC, the ratio distorted, and Athens lost monetary dominance to Macedon, then Rome. The correction didn't happen gradually. It collapsed Athens' economic system in 1 generation. Medieval Europe's Great Bullion Famine saw the ratio stretched to 12:1, contributing to feudalism's collapse, the rise of banking houses like the Medici, and financing voyages that discovered American silver. Spanish Empire. Potosi silver drove the ratio to 17:1, destroying Spanish economy through inflation while funding Dutch and English rivals. The correction transferred wealth from Spain to its competitors. California Gold Rush, 1849. Gold discoveries compressed the ratio to 13. 1. Silver owners who recognized this early made fortunes. The correction was swift and decisive. The pattern is consistent. Major deviations from 15:1 correct violently, transferring enormous wealth from holders of the overvalued metal to the undervalued one. Since 1971, the ratio has averaged 60.1 for 50 years. That's 4 times natural equilibrium, the largest monetary distortion in recorded history. Historical precedent shows extreme distortions don't resolve gradually. They snap back violently, usually overshooting before stabilizing. The Hunt Brothers episode offers a preview. When silver spiked from $6 to $50 in 1979-1980, the ratio collapsed from 40.1 to under 16.1 in 18 months. That correction started from a smaller distortion than exists today. Every historical correction was triggered by external shock. In Rome, barbarian disruption. In medieval Europe, plague. During Spanish era, piracy. In 1980, geopolitical crisis. Today's triggers are everywhere. Chinese export restrictions. Industrial demand exceeding above-ground stocks. Global monetary debasement. Geopolitical tensions. What makes this different? Previous distortions affected regional systems. This affects global financial architecture. When it corrects, implications cascade through currencies, bonds, stocks, commodities worldwide. Romans never faced paper contracts trading 100.1 against physical metal. Medieval Europeans didn't have ETFs. Spanish didn't face industrial demand, consuming more silver than continents produced. We're in uncharted complexity, but underlying dynamics remain identical. When the ratio deviates from geological reality for extended periods, correction becomes inevitable. The longer the distortion, the more violent the correction. Historical analysis shows ratio correction happens rapidly over months, not years. Silver doesn't just outperform gold, it dramatically outperforms everything as money flows from overvalued to undervalued metal. If ratio corrects from 72:1 to historical 15:1, while gold remains at $4,300, silver reaches $287. But precedent suggests overshooting. In 1980, silver briefly touched 10.1. Similar overshooting today could drive silver to $430 before stabilizing. These aren't predictions, these are historical patterns under modern conditions. Geological reality hasn't changed. Human behavior hasn't changed. What's changed is distortion scale and financial system complexity. The ancient truth remains. 15 ounces of silver equal 1 ounce of gold. Everything else is temporary manipulation that yields to natural law. August 15th, 1971. Nixon closes the gold window, severs the dollar from metal, and unleashes 5 decades of monetary manipulation. But silver got hit twice. Gold lost its official monetary role, but retained psychological status. Central banks still bought it. Silver, however, got reclassified as an industrial commodity. That single decision created the opening for the most sophisticated price suppression system in financial history. The manipulation works through paper multiplication. For every ounce of physical silver, the financial system creates 50 to 100 paper claims. Futures contracts, ETF shares, bank certificates. This paper silver floods markets whenever physical buying threatens higher prices. COMEX silver open interest routinely exceeds 200% of available vaulted metal. If half the contract holders demanded delivery, the system would collapse instantly, but they're supposed to accept cash settlement or roll contracts forward indefinitely. This kept silver artificially cheap for decades, while gold reflected monetary reality. When gold moved from $35 to $2,000 from 1971 to 2020, silver should have moved proportionally from $2.40 to $133. Instead, silver peaked around $50 in 2011 before getting hammered down through massive paper selling. Something changed in 2020. The system encountered actual physical demand that refused paper substitutes. Industrial consumption exploded. Solar panels, electric vehicles, data centers, all requiring physical silver for essential functions. You can't print silver paste for photovoltaic cells. The paper controllers responded with massive short-selling campaigns. In March 2021, premiums on physical coins reached $15 over spot price. The message was clear: we control price through paper markets. But that proved the manipulation existed and revealed the system's vulnerability. It only works when people accept paper substitutes for physical metal. Late 2025 data shows the stress. COMEX silver vaults lost 60% of registered inventory in 4 trading days. China implemented export restrictions affecting 70% of global supply. The paper system faced its first real test. The response was predictable: trading halts, technical difficulties, margin increases, emergency rule changes. The same playbook used in 1980 deployed again to maintain control. But today's demand comes from fundamental industrial necessity and awakening global recognition of monetary debasement. You can't break that with rule changes. Look at lease rates, the cost to borrow physical silver. Normal rates run 1 to 3% annually. During December 2025, rates spiked to 200%. Banks paid catastrophic interest just to find physical metal for delivery. That's system breakdown. China's export restrictions delivered the final blow. By controlling physical supply while paper markets remain Western-centered, they've created a 2-tier system. Physical silver trades $80 in Shanghai, while paper contracts struggle at $35 in New York. This divergence proves what silver advocates argued for decades. The paper price is artificial. Real silver, available for delivery, commands massive premiums over futures contracts. When the system breaks, the ratio correction will be extraordinary. 50 years of suppressed silver demand will hit markets simultaneously. Industrial users needing metal, investors fleeing worthless paper contracts, institutions recognizing silver's true monetary role. The paper leash is breaking. When it snaps completely, silver won't just catch up to its natural ratio with gold. It will overshoot dramatically as decades of manipulation reverse at once. The pattern is accelerating. Every data point confirms the same conclusion. The gold-silver ratio is approaching a violent correction that will reshape global wealth distribution within months. December 2025 gave us the preview. COMEX vaults hemorrhaging inventory. Chinese export restrictions beginning January 1st. Industrial demand hitting records while mine production stagnates. These weren't isolated events. They were the opening movements of systematic breakdown. Here's what happens next. Phase 1 is already underway. Physical shortage spreads globally. Shanghai inventories at decade lows. London vaults depleted. COMEX stocks down 70%. As industrial users compete with investors for finite supply, premiums explode. Phase 2 arrives when major industrial players announce inability to source adequate silver. When this news breaks, it triggers institutional panic buying. Phase 3, the paper market breaks. COMEX faces delivery demands exceeding inventory. Emergency cash settlement imposed. Futures prices decouple from physical reality. The ratio calculation becomes meaningless. Phase 4, the eruption. Silver gaps higher in massive increments as available metal commands whatever buyers will pay. $100, $150, $200 per ounce. Not gradually, but in weeks, as 50 years of manipulation reverses. The mathematics are inescapable. If gold remains at $4,300 and the ratio corrects to its 15-1 historical norm, silver reaches $287. But corrections this extreme rarely stop at targets. In 1980, silver touched 10.1 against gold. If similar overshooting occurs, silver could briefly reach $430. What makes this correction potentially more extreme than 1980? The distortion scale is larger, industrial demand is structural, and the global monetary system faces unprecedented debasement. The wealth transfer implications are staggering. Anyone holding physical silver during ratio correction captures not just price appreciation, but mathematical rebalancing of precious metals. Hierarchy. Silver dramatically outperforms gold itself. Conversely, anyone exposed through paper markets faces catastrophic risk. ETF shares, futures contracts, bank certificates become worthless when physical delivery becomes impossible. The timing catalysts are converging. Federal Reserve cutting rates, weakening dollar. Geopolitical tensions escalating. China's export restrictions, tightening supply. Industrial demand accelerating with AI and renewable energy. But the ultimate trigger will be recognition. When mainstream media acknowledges the ratio distortion, when institutional money flows into silver, when sovereign funds accumulate physical metal, the dam breaks completely. The gold-silver ratio has been distorted for 50 years. Geological reality suggests that distortion ends soon. What's your position when mathematical inevitability becomes market reality?